Welcome on Way to Grow, which is my weekly show, weekly master class for women who feel like their inner chains are weighing them down. This is Alex Tomaszewska, or Alex T, and today's topic is how to make faster and better decisions. And I'm going to be talking only about one thing that you actually need to implement in your life. Pakistan, awesome, thank you. That's going to help you make better decisions, and it's decisions in any area of life. So see what I'm wearing. I'm wearing green today because I want to say thank you. I want to say that I love the army. Well, and it's not just because of the uniforms. Well, that's a big part, yes. But I love the army because they use tactics and strategies, and it's a very complex system. Basically, it's been fascinating me. Some of the most brilliant minds are great strategists. Hello, Elena, great to have you here with me. And thank you for the rose. That's a nice touch. So some of the greatest minds are strategists, have been military strategists actually. So it's not just chess players, okay? It's military strategists like Stalin, for example, Napoleon, and such. And so today I'm going to be talking about history, and I have some notes here, okay? Because I want to tell you a little bit about tactics and strategy so that you can differentiate between the two of them and see how you implement them or not implement them in your life. And usually if you don't implement them, that's when the trouble in your decision making comes from. So imagine it's 776 in the US, okay? George Washington has his army and is fighting against the British and is way outnumbered because he was defeated in the Battle of Long Island, okay? So his army is about 9,000 troopers and the British army is much larger. And they use techniques too, but that's a different thing. And so he's defeated, and then they had to retreat to Brooklyn Heights. And the British army had them surrounded from three sides, and then on the back of them was the East River. So they really had no way to escape, and the British army was well aware that they were outnumbered. So what they were expecting from them was to simply defeat, because they thought they wouldn't want to lose, obviously, their man. So what George Washington did that night was he actually called for a small flotilla of boats to come for them, get them through the river, which was the only way out. And they also used railways to take the gun carriages outside of Brooklyn Heights. And so there was fog in the morning as well, which was fortunate. Let me take a sip here. And so Washington evacuated all 9,000 people, all 9,000 of his troopers, which if he didn't do that, they would have been defeated and they would have closed the revolution, basically. That would be the end of the revolution. Now, thanks to him keeping this army, he was then able to continue, right? So the revolution didn't end there. So that was his tactics. I mean, the strategy was to win the war naturally. So when you're planning on a strategy, I'm going to continue with the story in a second. When you're planning a strategy, sometimes you plan some battles to lose. You can plan to lose a battle because maybe it's a diversion from another place, let's say, from another battle, from another, hey, Michal, from another border, right? Sometimes you just pick your battles and say, okay, even if we lose this one, it's going to be okay. So you're not planning to lose the battle, but you know it's going to be okay even if you do, right? So what happens next here? So George Washington has these 9,000 troopers, and he retreats. And then there was another battle, which, wait a second, they won with the British at Trenton. So you see, he had his troopers, and thanks to that, he was able to win the next battle with the British at Trenton, right? And so then the British, again, know more or less, how many troopers there are left in George Washington's army. So the next thing they do, they chased the army of Washington. So they dispatched a really, really large army, way outnumbering, greatly George Washington, just to smash them completely. They wanted to end the revolution right there. And then George Washington could have either, surrendered, which would kept the troopers alive, or just lose the battle again. Now, again, he used the same tactics in that battle. So they retreated at night, basically. And again, he kept his army. He had a small army. The British had a huge army. Now, that tactics, that move allowed him to actually win the whole war, because he retreated his army to a position which was so good that gave him the leverage, and it allowed him to defeat the British in the Battle of Princeton in 1777. So you see how tactics, which is the application of plan and everything that goes on in a battle, you can call it tactics, but the strategy in this sense, in this context, the strategy is how to win the war. So what are we going to do? So tactics, you decide on tactics more or less when you're in a situation, okay? Strategy, you design it before anything happens. So that's like your plan, your goals, your big ideas, that's your strategy. And then tactics, because there's just so many small details to plan, you're not able to plan them, and you don't know how it's going to go, especially when it's war, right? Well, I'm actually talking about life, which is not war, although sometimes it seems like war, right? So you're unable to plan your tactics. And then again, so there's a lot of choices, good choices and bad choices, really, to make during a battle. Now, sometimes we need to lose a battle in order to win a war, right? Just as in military, that's exactly the same in life. Now, how does this correspond to our lives? What people do is usually, most of them, and when I say most of them, it's like, 95% at least of people, they don't have a strategy. They don't have a big plan. They only live more or less from day to day. They may think they have a plan. You may think you have some sort of plan, thinking, I want a big house. That's your plan. But that's not really your plan. That's not a strategy. That's like some sort of a big dream, which is not even well defined. So if it's not well defined, how are you going to select your tactics? And this is when we come to decision making. You see, if you have a good strategy, then the decision making on your tactics, which are your daily tasks, tactics could be a decision on whether you want to change your job or not, or whether you want to quit your job or not. These are tactics. If you have a strategy, then it's much easier to make the decision. Sometimes, actually, it's an obvious decision. If you have that strategy, it's not even something to think about, because you know you have to quit that job, or you have to stay in your job, for example, 2 more years to start your business, which would be strategy. But most people don't have that strategy, and therefore making decisions is so difficult and so time consuming. I'm losing my voice here. Sorry. You see, what you need to do in order to be able to make better and faster decisions and to make less decisions is define a strategy. And it's best to define it for 5 years and 10 years. What it is that you want to truly achieve in life. And it may sound simple. I don't think it does sound simple, but it may sound simple. It really is not a simple process, because when you think about it, you find out that you don't know what you want. And that's where you struggle with making decisions. And so if there's a big decision hanging over your head, it causes something called decision fatigue. And it takes away your ability to make other decisions. So our brain takes about 35,000 decisions every day. 35,000 decisions. Now, if you have one big decision, as in whether to quit your job or not, for example, that takes a lot of calculation power off your brain, unfortunately. So there's a couple less decisions that you're going to be able to make. So in order for that decision to be simpler, you need to figure out what it is that you want. I have a friend who it took her 2 years to decide on a camera that she wanted to get. 2 years to decide on a camera that she wanted to get, and she wanted to get the camera to take photos of her newborn child, which was 2 years old already when she bought the camera. So that's how long decision take. And if it's a small decision like that, now I want you to think about the decisions that are hanging over your head. You know, maybe it's, why am I at this job? What is my purpose? What is my passion? If you don't make a decision, if you're not sure about that, that question keeps hanging over your head, and it deprecates you of the power of decision making, and it's going to be harder for you to make other decisions at home because your brain cannot cope with that. So once you find that out, and that's a part of the process that I take my coaching customers through, one of the parts, once you figure out what you want, it's so much easier to make decisions. Really, my life is pretty simple right now. And I don't have really big decisions to make. Why? Because I have a strategy, because I have a plan. So my tactics are going to be aligned. So more or less, I usually know which way to go. Is it going to be left or is it going to be right? Now, what happens a lot is people, when they get burned out, for example, they get stuck in their jobs because they're thinking, well, I started this career, I studied whatever, I don't know, medicine or law or something else, or IT engineering. And so my life is bound to rotate around that topic. But you see, there's no strategy in there. There was a strategy which was established years ago when you were starting to study. You established, okay, I'm going to be an engineer. Okay, I'm going to be a doctor. And then years go by and you haven't revised your strategy. And it needs revision after all the battles that you've gone through. After being down that journey, you need to revise your strategy because it's just too old. It's too old. When I worked in the corporate world, we would have roadmaps for software. We would have roadmaps, like technological roadmaps. And the world, as you know, evolves very, very quickly these days, right? So the roadmaps would go to up to from 3 to 5 years ahead. But they had to be updated every year because things change every year. They actually change every day in this world. So you need to revise your strategies one more time. Yeah? I guess that's it. So you know now the difference between tactics and strategy. And if you only use tactics, if you just live day to day and just make your decision to stay one more day at this job or to postpone your decision about quitting for a while, that's your tactics. You're missing strategy. And that's what disables you from making a good, fast decision. So next week, I am going to do a masterclass on making decisions. And in the comments, I would like you to let me know when you're interested, because I will send you an invitation to that masterclass. So let me know in the comments, shout out, I'm in, blah, blah, blah. Send me the link, send me the invitation, you know, whatever. And that's it for tonight, I think. I'm sorry, my voice keeps breaking. Yeah, that's it. I want to wish you a great evening and thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your life and your evening and creating your strategy, you know. Whenever you come up with one, let me know. Bye guys.